this incident that he has the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, and Homeland Security making sure that that net is tightened.
And as far as fighting terrorists abroad, Corey, based on what you've seen so far in the first year of President Trump's office, is he doing the right things? Is his strategy working?
I believe he is. And if you listen to what he said last week, General Mattis and our Defense Department is taking our fight directly to ISIS in the places where they are so that we are fighting them in their home territories. We have seen strategic surgical assaults on these animals living overseas who want to perpetuate harm against us. The United States has to make sure that we are fighting ISIS where they are, and so they're not coming here. And the president has given the authority to the Department of Defense and General Mattis to make sure that they have the resources necessary to take our attacks to them, and that is where we will be successful, which is fighting ISIS on their home territory and not on our soil. All
right, we're still looking at live shots there in Midtown Manhattan where this attack took place a couple hours ago. This is shots from moments ago. This investigation continues to play out, and we thank you both, David and Corey, for sticking around with us and coming on. The authors of the book, Let Trump Be Trump. Thanks for coming back, guys.
Thank you.
Department of Homeland Security, the statement out just a moment ago, and we'll track the latest that they're getting to. In part, they say we're working closely with federal, state, local authorities, as well as local community leaders here in New York City as the investigation continues. We remind the public, if you see something, say something, which is one. Well, that's a statement we hear in New York City just about every day.
Very important one, too.
Here. We're also told the bus station has reopened for business. And the thing that is very important about the realization that that's happening right now is getting back to work, as the mayor and the governor just said. When the Halloween truck terrorist did his deed on the West Side Highway, it was extraordinary to us how quickly traffic had reopened, which was kind of different based on the pattern we had seen previously, be it here or elsewhere. But there is a major focus to make sure that people go on with their lives after incidents.
First responders are a huge part of that, making us feel safe. And as the mayor just said, there's no credible threats against New York City at this time. Looking back at this particular incident, he said the first responders responded brilliantly.
Yeah, and there's a video going online, and Sandra and I were looking at it during the press conference here. I think it's surveillance video underneath the passageway, which runs below the street. And you can see the explosion occur. And it's a giant cloud of smoke that goes up. And when the smoke clears, you see the ISIS-inspired terrorist, H-27 out of Bangladesh, on the ground, spread out like a cartwheel, motionless, before he reaches to grab his leg. Based on our information, that terrorist is still alive. And so the operation now is to round him up and others who may have been around this plot.
And, you know, when the governor was just filling us in on the details of the attack, he concluded by saying, Bill, the reality is we are a target by many who would like to make a statement against democracy, against freedom. Yeah,
before there's a lot of other things to get to that we want to go to here in a moment. Quickly to Rick Leventhal, who was at the scene, been there for about an hour and a half now. And Rick, a lot of the reporting you gave us at 8:45 a.m. has played out to be true. What more do you have now?
Yeah. And the name that I was given, Bill, was the name confirmed at the news conference, Kayed Ullah, 27-year-old from Brooklyn. Before that, apparently Bangladesh. We heard that he suffered some pretty serious injuries in the explosion, which was some sort of pipe bomb affixed to his person. As you heard John Miller tell us, with Velcro and zip ties. We've seen a photo of the guy on the ground. It looked like his midsection was pretty badly burned. The fire commissioner said he suffered burns to his hand, his abdomen, and other lacerations. He may have been trying to target other people when he was walking through that underground passageway between here, Port Authority Bus Terminal at 42nd Street, and 7th Avenue in Times Square. That's where this device went off and where he was hurt. And the Port Authority of Police, which handles security for not just the World Trade Center, but also many of the trains and tunnels, they put out a tweet commending 4 officers who helped to take this suspect down. They are Jack Collins, Sean Gallagher, Drew Preston, and Anthony Manfredini, Port Authority police officers who actually were the first, apparently, to collar the suspect. And then, of course, the NYPD swarmed in here along with state police, transit police, and you see FBI on scene as well, handling the investigation. But importantly, Bill, this was one guy with one what's described as a crude unsophisticated device that did in fact explode. One injury to him and a couple of or three other minor injuries of people who transported themselves away from the scene into local hospitals. The guy's in custody. Now, obviously now the focus is on trying to figure out if he had any help.
Rick, we'll bring you back in a moment here when you get more information, okay? On scene, Rick Leventhal. Quick comment from Buck Sexton, who spent a lot of time in New York working stories just like these, Buck.
Well, this is following a pretty standard set of events at this point, Bill. Everything that we would expect to be the case at this stage of the investigation is turning out to be true. We're very fortunate that there weren't any deaths and there weren't any serious casualties that resulted from this. But it is the holidays in New York City. New York City is the biggest terrorist target in the country, among the biggest terrorist targets in the world. The Islamic State has been putting out calls for its adherents to do just this type of activity, whether that's what radicalized this person or not, we'll have to see. But that also means that the threat continues on, and going into the holidays, whether it's here or Christmas markets in Germany or just anywhere around the world, there are some real problems that we have to keep an eye on.
Thank you, Buck. Buck Sexton analyzing all this in real time along with the Sara in New York. All right, 6 minutes past the hour. This story is ongoing. We did not anticipate that, Sandra, but there were some other things out there that we're going to get to right now. So roll this on a Fox News alert right now. Other big story today. Watch this now. Brand new poll out moments ago on the Alabama Senate race showing the Democrat Doug Jones pulling ahead of Republican Roy Moore. With less than 24 hours now until voters cast their ballots, this is what we find. The Fox News poll shows Jones, the Democrat, holding a 10-point lead and one of the ruby red states of America. Jonathan Seri live in Midland City, Alabama with more. And what's Roy Moore doing now on the final day of his campaign? Jonathan.
Hi, Bill. Well, Roy Moore plans to hold what he's calling a Drain the Swamp rally here in Midland City in the southern portion of Alabama. He's going to be joined once again by former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon, who rallied with Moore at another barn in the town of Fairhope last Tuesday. At that rally, Bannon's speech made headlines for its strong criticism of Mitt Romney and other establishment Republicans who have opposed Moore early in the campaign. Now, in a radio interview with Breitbart's Aaron Klein, Moore said his Democratic opponent, Doug Jones, is owned by both Democrats and Republicans opposing the conservative movement. Let's listen.
The Republican establishment actually wants Jones in there because they think they can beat him in 2 years without a contest. And, of course, the Democrats want Jones in there for their vote. So, you know, I'm fighting both the Republican establishment out of Washington as well as the Democratic Party. And that's a big problem money-wise for us.
Today, the Moore campaign is sending out robocalls recorded by President Trump, who remains highly popular in this state. Listen to that.
Roy Moore is the guy we need to pass our Make America Great Again agenda. Roy is a conservative who helped me steer this country back on track after 8 years of the Obama disaster.
So Moore is rallying his conservative base, reminding them not only of his conservative social values, but his support for President Trump, Bill.
Thank you, Jonathan. Sari live there in Alabama. Sandra has more now.
All right, for more on this, Steve Hayes, editor-in-chief of the Weekly Standard and Fox News contributor. Steve, want to get your take on the developments of the morning first as we move on to other things.
Yeah, well, very interesting. I mean, I think Buck Sexton has really done a good job of putting this into its proper context. You look back at the attempted bombing in Times Square by Faisal Shahzad, who had help from the Pakistani Taliban and still couldn't get his bomb to detonate. You've had other attempted efforts that haven't worked. The real question is, when does one of these work the way it's intended to and we have a mass casualty attack?
And meanwhile, we've got this big Senate race. Doug Jones, 10-point lead. Where do things go from here? You just heard from Roy Moore. He said the Republican establishment wants Jones to win. The Democrat Party wants Jones to win. And the president says go out and vote for Roy Moore. Where does this go?
Well, it really matters who Alabamians want if they want Doug Jones to win. This poll is certainly different than the polls that we've seen in the past couple weeks. This one that has Doug Jones up 10. The last poll that had Doug Jones up was a Washington Post poll taken in late November. The momentum seemed to be heading in the direction of Roy Moore, certainly having Donald Trump support him and get out and do a rally close to Alabama for him, recording these robocalls. is an effort to get Republicans, hardcore Republicans, to show up. If you look at the baseline of support back for Republican candidates through the presidential campaigns going back to 2004, you're looking at a threshold of about 60% or above. And you would have to see serious erosion for Republican support for Roy Moore in order to lose this election, given that baseline of support.
All right. Also happening this week, we're watching the markets because we know that the government is now funded through next Friday, giving Republicans an opportunity to get taxes done. Dow's up 50 points, another record close on Friday. I think I just saw 65th record close under President Trump, Stephen Hayes. So there's a lot of optimism this will get done. Will it? And will it be great?
There is a lot of optimism that it'll get done. I think there are still some questions in Washington, D.C. You've seen of late Susan Collins from Maine raising questions anew about her support or her possible support for this. And other than that, you've seen a pretty concerted effort by Republicans to push this through. I think there's more optimism here talking to people on Capitol Hill that it'll get through and the president will sign it than that it will be derailed at this last minute.
And the president choosing his time recently to tweet about the fake news media, calling the media stain on America after some very serious reporting errors over the weekend.
Yeah, there have been some really bad reports out over the past, not just the weekend. You go back to the past week, you had the erroneous reports or overstated reports on Deutsche Bank. You had the CNN report, of course, this past weekend. Reports from ABC and Brian Ross. This has been a really crummy week for the mainstream media, and every time there are these kinds of mistakes, and mistakes followed by a full correction and an acknowledgement of the mistakes rather than an attempt to explain them away. That helps Donald Trump make his argument.
All right, a lot going on, and because of the breaking news this morning, we're squeezed on time. Stephen Hayes, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Sandra.
All right. Bill?
It is our top story of the morning now. A terror attack in the heart of New York City as we learn more about the suspect. Senator Lindsey Graham is next on why he believes the individual now in custody should be tried as an enemy combatant and what difference at this point that makes. Senator Lindsey Graham's up next.
All right, New York City terror attack this morning, leaving several injured. The suspect is currently in custody, a 27-year-old man. Police, fire department authorities, the mayor and the governor just confirming. A crude pipe bomb was strapped to him and it went off in a passageway from 7th and 8th Avenues near Times Square. 3 people suffering non-life-threatening injuries that we know of at this point. We want to bring in on the phone South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, thank you for being here. Your thoughts on this morning so far?
Well, number one, I'm very pleased that no one got killed, and I think we dodged a bullet. There's more of this coming. The last thing I want this guy to hear is you have a right to remain silent. He should be held as a suspected enemy combatant. We should take several days here to figure out who he is and not read him as Miranda rights. Prosecuting him is not going to be difficult. I want to hold him under the law of war and gather intelligence.
You know, and people hear you say that and they think it sounds so obvious. Why wouldn't that be the case, Senator? Why would he not be treated as an enemy combatant?
I can't think of a reason why he would. Clearly, he's not trying to rob anybody. He was trying to commit an act of terrorism. He should be held as a suspected enemy combatant and interrogated under the law of war. He's apparently a allegiance soldier of the caliphate, and I'm urging the Trump administration to reject the law enforcement model and reject Obama's policies of turning the war into a crime.
This is the second terrorist attack that we've seen in New York City in a couple of months now, Senator Graham. And when you look back at that attack, when a terrorist drove a rental truck down a busy jogging path in lower Manhattan, killed many people, he was not treated as an enemy combatant. What was the situation there?
Well, they read him as Miranda rights. They charged him in federal court. They gave him a lawyer. I've been a military lawyer all my adult life. We're fighting a war, not a crime. Under the law of the war, when you capture an enemy prisoner, somebody who's the soldier of the caliphate. You can hold them for intelligence gathering purposes. The last thing a terrorist needs to hear is you have a right to remain silent and a right to a lawyer. Under the law of war, you don't get lawyers. You get held in military custody and interrogated. And we didn't do that with the truck guy. And you'll never convince me the best way to gather intelligence is to read somebody their Miranda rights and put them in federal court. I don't mind this guy being tried in civilian court. It'd be easy to prove his case. What I object to vehemently is treating him as a common criminal. I want to know everything about him. I want to know how he got radicalized. He may be an isolated lone wolf, but you don't know yet. I want to spend some quality time with this guy, finding out all we need to know about what got him to where he is today.
How do you predict the president will get involved here? We have not heard from him yet. No official statement from the White House other than Sarah Sanders, the press secretary, said the president has been briefed.
Well, I can tell you, I met with the White House Thursday last week with General Kelly and their top national security people, talking about incidents just like this. There's more of this coming to our shores. As ISIL gets broken apart over there, they're going to start radicalizing people on the internet in our backyard. Some of the people who went over to Syria are coming back to America. I'm afraid there's more of this coming. We had a discussion about what to do in the future if someone commits an act of terror. How should they be handled? Should we use the Obama model where they're just a common criminal, or should we go back to the wartime model where we hold them as enemy combatants? The president has said all the right things about terrorism. He's empowered the military to effectively deal with ISIL. But when it comes to detention and interrogation policy, they're still using the Obama model. I hope they will break.
So I'm looking back at the words of Mayor de Blasio. He had described this as an attempted terrorist attack, suggesting a lone actor, no additional incidents or activities. Senator, I just was wondering your thoughts. When we see a terrorist attack like this happen and the term lone wolf is used to describe it.
Well, there's a couple scenarios. There's people who are trained in terrorism that go to terrorist training camps and come back as trained killers. There are people who get inspired by internet activity that join the cause. When you're dead, you're dead. Does it really matter how the guy behaved if they committed an act of terror and killed one of your loved ones? My point is this. This guy tried to commit an act of terror, apparently in the name of ISIL. That's enough for me to treat him differently than a common criminal. I'd like to know what got him radicalized. I'd like to know everything about what got him to want to blow himself up. You cannot do that by giving him a lawyer in the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system is not designed to gather intelligence in a war. The military legal system is. So I'm hoping that whether he's a lone wolf or not, that we would treat this as an act of terrorism, not a common crime. And
treat the suspect, you say, as an enemy combatant. Senator Lindsey Graham, thank you for coming on the Breaking News.
Thank you.
Right.
21 past the hour, back to New York, based on what we're learning in a moment. But there are two other big stories today. Brand new polling on this Alabama Senate race. We'll share that with you. And the wildfires in California. There is a new and ongoing threat, as we have seen so much get taken down on the path of these flames. So we're live back on the ground on that, and a lot more coming up. Back in a moment on all this. Busy Monday. 24 past the hour. Now I want to get to another big story. The task for firefighters, again, is an enormous challenge. California is burning and is getting tougher over the weekend. The weather forecast not in its favor. A massive fire spreading from Ventura into Santa Barbara County. Hundreds of homes destroyed already, and Adam Housley back at his post outside of Santa Barbara. How are things now with the sun up on a Monday morning and a brand new week, Adam?
Well, good and bad. There were 6 fires, as we know, going into the weekend. 5 of them are basically out. The 6th one is the first fire, the Thomas fire, the one that we covered last week here, Bill, that burned through Ventura and burned down several hundred homes there. Over the weekend and through the last 6 days, now into the 7th day, it's marched towards Santa Barbara County. Behind me, it's across all these hillsides here. It's pretty smoky, so you can't really make it out too well on the camera, but you can see some of the flames up there at the highest levels. It's now the 5th largest fire in state history, and it's now threatening homes here in Carpinteria, a city of about 14,000 people. Now, the good news is it's backing down these hills that are on the edge of Carpinteria, which means it burns slow down the hill. Heat rises. And so firefighters are kind of sitting back now watching it burn down these hills with the idea that they'll be able to attack it from the air now that the sun's come up here, and also on the ground. And also the other good news is back down these hills, Bill, is that there's no wind. So if the conditions stay the way they are right now, firefighters are cautiously optimistic because it'll burn down these hills and then it hits agricultural areas, which are trees, orchards, that kind of thing, which are green. And as long as the wind doesn't blow, they'll be able to kind of stop the fire there. That's what it's basically a natural break, a natural fire break, if you will. And that's the plan right now at this hour. But if those winds do come back, those embers from these fires could blow into where we're standing, which is where the neighborhoods start. So it's a cautious optimism here, Bill, if the winds stay away. But this fire is massive, as I mentioned, now burning into its 7th day. It'll be 7. It started last Monday night, so 7 days as of tonight. And now again, burning more than 230,000 acres, one of the largest fires in state history. Bill?
I'm reading the prediction and the forecast is for more winds this week, and strong ones at that. Is that true, Adam?
Yeah, so we had the same forecast last week, and some days we had winds. Some days those winds didn't come at all. I think today's really the big day for this fire. They have a lot of the other legs of this fire out, or at least controlled, and this is the last real active ridge right here. And again, if these winds don't come today, it gives them, a solid 24 hours, hopefully, to let this fire back down the hill. It's going to burn a lot slower down. They'll be able to come in with helicopters and drop water on it. They'll be able to hit some stuff on the ground as well. But if those winds do come back, Bill, then that fire can quickly move this way. It goes from moving slow to fast. And then the embers also can blow as far as several miles away and potentially catch something on fire. So I think it's one of those situations where if we don't get wind today, they're going to feel a lot better about this tomorrow. If we do get wind today, they're not going to be feeling good about this fire tomorrow.
Thank you, Adam. Good luck out there, okay? We're pulling for you. Adam Housley, Santa Barbara County there.
Sounds good.
In California. Thank you. Sandra was next.
New York City, a target once again. Reaction ahead from the head of the House Homeland Security Committee, Chairman Mike McCall, joins us on set next.
Also, the battle for that open Senate seat in Alabama, what voters are saying only a day before the election when we take a look at some brand new Fox News polls from Alabama on that.
And the decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, facing massive protests. How the Trump administration is responding.
We don't do things just to please every other country in the world. We do things to advance the ball. And that's what the president did with this. He said, this is time that we acknowledge reality. It's been 22 years in the making. It was time. And not only that, Chris, it's the right thing to do.
Bona makes it easy to care for your hardwood floors, so you can just relax and enjoy. Pets, kids, everyday foot traffic. A busy home requires a more powerful clean. Bona Power Plus delivers with an oxygenated formula and Power Loop technology to remove dirt buildup. Bona, for simply beautiful floors.
Imagine a communications network where we send a signal to an airplane, and that airplane would be linked to other aircraft with the goal of creating a fully meshed network in the sky. Once developed, such a network could be the most cost-effective and practical solution to the world's connectivity needs. The potential bandwidth and reach of such a network far surpasses what's available today. Imagine the possibilities. Airborne wireless network, redefining global connectivity.
The biggest fear Goldstack families have that their child will be forgotten.
These people died for us, and we need to appreciate that.
The Wreaths Across America wreath laying is it's a celebration of life.
To sponsor a wreath, please visit wreathsacrossamerica.org.
I know what you're thinking. I thought what you thought. Some things are just too good to be true. Just like you, I thought that reverse mortgages had to have some kind of catch, just a way for the banks to get your house, right? Well, then I did some homework, and I found out it's not any of that. It's not another way for the bank to get your house, and it's also not too good to be true. A reverse mortgage loan is a simple idea, really. You turn your home's equity into cash, and you pay it back when you leave the house. Most people use the money to pay off their existing mortgage or pay some bills, cover medical costs, even update their home. And, just as importantly, you still own your home. And you make no monthly mortgage payments. It's a loan designed just for older Americans, and it's helped hundreds of thousands to live a more stable, secure retirement and stay in the home they love.
AAG is the leader in reverse mortgages. Call us today for your free information kit. It will answer all your questions and help you decide if a reverse mortgage is right for you and how to qualify.
I know what you're thinking. I did too. I felt the same way. But I checked it out, and I found out a lot more. It's pretty simple. A reverse mortgage from AAG can give you the retirement stability you're looking for. Maybe you want to check it out.
If you're 62 or older and own your own home, give AAG a call to receive your free information kit. You'll receive the information you're looking for, as well as tell you how much cash you may qualify for. Call 1-800-927-6660 today.
AAG, bringing stability to your retirement.
The perfect gift sale at Joseph A. Bank. All Traveler and Executive Sport Coats $149. All Pima cotton sweaters $3 for $99. Plus, buy one, get one free on almost everything in store. The perfect gift sale, only at Joseph A. Bank.
Approximately 7:20 this morning, we had a terror-related incident in the subway in the passageway between 42nd and 8th.
No additional known incidents at this time. There are no additional known activities. This is the most resilient place on earth. We've proven it time and time again. We proved it just over a month ago. We proved it on 9/11. We're going to prove it again today. The terrorists will not win. We're going to keep being New Yorkers.
7:20 a.m. Eastern Time on a passageway beneath the street in New York City. This is the latest ISIS-inspired hit against our country. Akayed Ullah, age 27, out of Bangladesh. We believe he lived in Brooklyn. That part of the story was not confirmed by authorities a bit earlier today, but we're waiting for more on that. The terrorist is now in custody. We believe he will live. Texas Congressman Mike McCall, chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, with me now in studio. Sir, good morning to you. They said a lot an hour ago with the police commissioner, the governor, and the mayor. Go ahead and just evaluate this based on what they have said.
I mean, it looks like a low-tech, small-scale operation. Potential suicide bomber, unsuccessful in terms of blowing himself up, but he did injure some other people in a subway system, which is a very soft target in New York. We've been very worried about subways and soft targets. We have canines, but you can't stop all of this. But it looks like at this point, a lone wolf-inspired attack. What I worry about is ISIS sent a message 2 weeks ago saying that we will see you in New York for Christmas soon. And so we know that they're targeting attacks around the Christmas season, not only here in New York, the #1 target, but also in Europe.
I think we have a picture of the image that became public 2 weeks ago, and it's crudely drawn, but this is it. You know, it's looking south in Times Square, and Santa Claus is off to the right, and some sort of explosive message is contained therein.
Correct. And this is the direction they've taken. We have defeated the caliphate, defeated ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Now the foreign fighters are coming back to Europe and the United States, and this radicalization over the internet continues to be the power they can exert to radicalize and pull off small-scale operations like this. We need to take this jihadist material down and off the internet. I've been talking to a lot of the high-tech companies to do just that, because that is their power today.
What have they said about that approach?
Well, the
what
Google,
have they said
Facebook,
about how they can police it, how many people they will hire to do it? Google,
Facebook, Twitter. This is what they use. And so 5 years ago, very reluctant. I think they know they have a moral responsibility to stop this jihadist material. Sermons of al-Awlaki on every one of these devices that I come across. And we've made great progress now where they are starting to take down this information off the internet. But they're very savvy. They'll switch from one Twitter handle to the next. And the latest message is like the Berlin plot in Germany at the Christmas market is to attack Christmas markets in Europe and the United States.
They said last hour he had no known connection to ISIS. But if you're operating below the radar, and if you indeed are inspired online, that's the world in which you're living, and that's what you're referring to with technology.
I see that as a distinction without a difference. I mean, I think the lines are blurred now. This is certainly ISIS inspired. They radicalize recruits and train people in the United States over the internet. So I think this is the new age of terror that you're going to see more and more of. And a lot of it's more low tech, like we saw the vehicle.
Because the land is now gone in Syria.